apa beza, you said that DBT ni is derived from CBT concept. So apa beza DBT and CBT?
So what I understand, CBT actually this is type of psychotherapy that helps patient in to change the destructive thought. But in DBT, the concept is the same to change the thought, but then it focus more on emotional and social aspect, and also the other four modules that been mentioned just now.
Okay, so correct. So so essentially, CBT highlight two domains, which is cognitive and behavioral. And in DBT, they highlight another two main domain, which is emotional and interpersonal. Okay, kenapa dia panggil dialectical behavioral therapy? Kenapa dia panggil dialectical? Apa maksud dialectical?
What I understand, dialectical tu maksud dia macam to accept where we are. Maksudnya to move our rigid thinking to a more flexible one, so that we can accept the current event that happen to our life.
So dialectical ni dia almost macam modify lah. So another word untuk kita kata modify. So even though you said just now DBT has been used for various type of problems, and tapi that sebenarnya more on research based lah. In clinical practice, kita still focus DBT hanya untuk self harm behavior, in particular those with borderline personality disorder lah. Okay, so untuk faham DBT, you need to faham patient macam mana yang sesuai untuk DBT. And so bila you think about DBT, you think about instability in emotion and interpersonal yang selalunya manifest in patient with borderline personality disorder. Apa features borderline personality disorder? Sebab kalau you faham, DBT ni dia almost macam match or made for borderline. Maknanya whatever yang ada dalam DBT tu is basically aim untuk cover apa yang tak ada dalam patient yang ada borderline personality disorder. Okay, so apa core features of borderline?
Untuk core features of borderline, maksudnya dia ada instability ataupun pervasive pattern of instability in the interpersonal relationship with others.
Okay, so that one. So we tackle dengan apa komponen DBT yang kita tackle?
The mindfulness, the distress, emotion dysregulation, the distress tolerance.
Dia ada instability in interpersonal. Apa komponen of DBT yang target that?
Oh, the interpersonal one.
Interpersonal lah. Kenapa mindfulness pula? And so sebab orang yang ada borderline ni ada issues with interpersonal. Apa contoh issues with interpersonal dalam borderline? Apa contoh dia? Contoh real life dia. Apa maksud interpersonal problem tu? If you look at borderline punya characteristics, apa yang manifest as interpersonal problem? Orang lain?
Dia ada banyak
suka gaduh dengan kawan-kawan dia tu.
Macam mana?
Suka gaduh dengan orang lain, dengan kawan-kawan.
dengan kawan, dengan family pun ada masalah, dengan kawan-kawan pun ada masalah. Dia macam ada banyak interpersonal problem dengan beberapa ramai orang.
Okay, so my questions was apa characteristics or diagnostic features of borderline yang match that. Okay, what you said tu adalah benda-benda yang orang layman nampak lah. Dia ni suka merajuk lah, dia ni sensitif lah, dia ni tak nak kawan orang lah, dia ni cakap orang macam ni lah, macam tu lah. So itu apa yang layman person nampak. Tapi dalam diagnostic criteria of borderline, apa yang
dia unstable and intense.
Fear of abandonment.
Okay, good. So one is fear of abandonment. Okay, maksudnya dia akan behave in the such way that dia sama ada too clingy ataupun dia jadi possessive ataupun dia jadi takut untuk close sebab dia takut nanti dia akan tinggalkan. So all of that driven from dia punya core symptoms of fear of abandonment. Lagi?
Dia ada excessive self-criticism.
Not quite. That's not really interpersonal. Interpersonal ni dengan orang.
Difficult to control the anger.
That can be also interpersonal juga, and which is it can be emotional problem. Tapi maknanya in relationship dia akan ada issues sebab even small things within the relationship tu akan trigger dia punya anger. Lagi?
Paranoid toward others.
So dia ada difficulty in building trust. Okay, alright. So all of these are issues yang related to symptoms of all of these are issues in life of a person with borderline, yang mana sebenarnya essentially adalah part of the symptoms of illness that they have, which is borderline personality disorder lah. Okay, so they have trouble in understanding people, relating to people, and so dia almost macam kalau saya selalu bagi analogy adalah if you have seen patients with autism, so autism ni dia autistic in term of social and communication. So patient with borderline ni dia autistic in term of emotional and relationship. And maksudnya dia tak faham apa yang dia rasa, dia tak faham apa yang orang rasa. Dia tak boleh relate apa yang dia rasa, dia tak boleh relate dengan apa yang orang rasa. Hence it results in problem in relationship, problem in life, distress, depression and so forth. Okay, so kena faham dulu dia punya concept behind it. Okay, so one core features dia adalah interpersonal deficit. So kita kata dengan interpersonal training dalam DBT. Lagi? Apa lagi core problem dia?
Impulsive behavior.
Okay, so impulsive behavior. So impulsive behavior kita tackle dengan apa? Which component of DBT?
The group skills.
No, component of DBT. Group skills tu method, how you do it.
Emotional.
Apa?
Emotional part of the DBT.
Bukan, kan DBT ada 4 komponen.
Mindfulness saja.
Distress.
Impulsive tu apa isu apa?
Dia tak boleh nak kawan, maksudnya dia ada potential untuk self harm.
Okay, so apa yang which component yang kita nak guna untuk tackle that?
Distress tolerance.
Okay, so distress tolerance pun boleh, mindfulness pun boleh. So dia bukanlah specific one to one, dia ada combination of components lah. And so maksudnya components tu try nak target that symptoms. Because contohnya is impulsivity berlaku disebabkan kita tak berfikir, kita jadi reaktif kan. And so mindfulness ajar kita untuk relax, bertenang, cool down dulu and don't just do anything, take your time. And so that's what mindfulness ajar. Distress tolerance pun boleh juga, ataupun not quite there. Yang more related adalah emotional regulation, because they become impulsive when they are emotionally unstable. And so emotional regulation ajar dia untuk regulate the emotion so that they don't become impulsive. Okay, lagi? Apa lagi core features of borderline?
Punya mood dia macam over dramatic.
So bukan over dramatic, unstable lah. So instability in mood. And so kita nak tackle dengan which component?
Emotion regulation.
Emotional regulation. Good. Okay, so you all boleh nampak pattern dia kan? And maknanya sebab tu bila you faham DBT, you kena faham dia punya apa yang dia nak tolong sebenarnya. And sama juga dengan CBT. Kalau you faham dalam CBT konsep dia adalah dia nak betulkan kognitif, dia nak betulkan behavior. This is why dekat orang depression, sebab orang depression ni dia ada cognitive problem, dia ada cognitive error, dia ada behavioral yang maladaptive menyebabkan dia maintain to be depressed. So CBT tackle specifically that. So if you get that concept, and walaupun you dah tinggal CBT, you tak pernah tengok CBT, ataupun you dah few months left the theory, you boleh still answer the questions. Kalau kita tanya tentang what is CBT, why do you want to offer CBT for this patient? So you kena faham konsep dia. So same goes with DBT. And so just understand DBT ni is a structured therapy aiming at training patient or educating patient or giving skills to patient to help to regulate dia punya emotional. So dia ada 4 components: mindfulness, interpersonal, distress tolerance and emotional regulation, which is aimed at tackling deficits in patients with deficits in skills among patients with borderline personality disorder. So let's say you have long case in exam, ada patients yang ada depression, and then bila you tanya pre-morbid personality, dia kata dia ada chronic emptiness, dia ada self-harm behavior, dia ada impulsivity. Then in the management, you boleh mention tentang DBT as one of the options of the treatment. And then later bila examiner tanya, why do you think DBT will help? Then you can highlight specifically. So you boleh kata patients ni ada self-harm, which according to patients normally are impulsive in nature. So therefore, teaching patients element of DBT such as mindfulness, emotional regulation will enable patient to know what need to be done whenever he is or she is in the situations where she would become distressed, impulsive and eventually resort to self-harm. Faham So bila you boleh answer macam tu, basically you've understood the concept of it. Okay, yang detail telefon berapa jam semua tu kita tak tanyalah. So that's just how you do it. And yang what's more important is what is it actually and why do you think it will help patients yang you rasa indicated for that therapy. Faham?
Doktor.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, so moving on to interpersonal psychotherapy. Okay, so the goal of interpersonal psychotherapy is to reduce or eliminate psychiatric symptoms by improving the quality of the patient's current interpersonal relation and social functioning. Okay, so in interpersonal psychotherapy, there is 3 phases based on Kaplan. The first phase is initial phase, in which it helps to identify the problem area that will be the target for the treatment. And second, the intermediate phase, to working on the target problem area that been identified in the initial phase. And third, termination phase, to consolidate gains made during treatment and prepare the patient for future work on their own. So that's the 3 phases in interpersonal psychotherapy. The technique of the psychotherapy, first, family therapy, in which it include the family member who are willing or able to join, so that they can help to resolve the conflict and improve the communication between the family members. Okay, and second, if the problems is involving the marital disharmony, the marital or couples therapy can be used, in which it help the partner to understand each other. And then third, group therapy, in which the group therapy is more the members in the group is more homogeneous, so that they are better in understanding and sharing the experiences of each one of them. So that's all for interpersonal psychotherapy.
Okay, so interpersonal psychotherapy ni basically specific, more specific. Maknanya dia target specifically interpersonal issues sahaja. And cumanya what kind of interpersonal issues yang kita nak target? Apa contoh interpersonal issues? Interpersonal therapy ni dia tak specific to diagnosis, dia specific to problem. Maknanya bila patients ada whatever interpersonal problem, we can offer interpersonal psychotherapy. Cuma dia punya syarat dia punya predominant problem dia mesti interpersonal. Kalau patient borderline, dia ada interpersonal juga, tapi kita tak offer interpersonal therapy because interpersonal tu cuma salah satu je daripada dia punya problem. They have many other problems. So we need to offer them something yang more comprehensive. And tapi ada patient, contohnya anxiety ke, depression ke, bipolar ke, dia punya predominant problem dia adalah interpersonal. Sama ada interpersonal tu menyebabkan dia relapse atau interpersonal tu yang menyebabkan dia perpetuate, tak sembuh-sembuh. So apa contoh interpersonal problem yang kita boleh offer interpersonal psychotherapy?
Contoh dia ada problem, interpersonal problem between the family members, macam ada conflict with the mak ataupun abang.
Apa contoh betul? So interfamily punya konflik. Apa contoh konflik dia?
The family doesn't understand what he is experiencing.
Okay. Lagi?
Contoh macam patient yang kita discuss waktu schizophrenia punya DCP hari tu, macam the patient has conflict with the mother in which he said that mother kept on saying that what dia think pasal menjadi panglima perang tu is actually not right.
Okay. Right. Lagi?
Problem is marital problem.
Okay. So marital problem selalunya masalah apa?
Dia macam the spouse doesn't understand each other ke.
Okay. So sometimes communication issues. Okay. So that's one example. So bila patient tu ada a lot of communication issues, selalu salah faham menyebabkan dia, bila salah faham tu dia rasa down, rasa sedih, menyebabkan dia become more depressed. Then this kind of patient might be suitable untuk kita offer interpersonal psychotherapy. Okay, lagi? So one is communication. Second, pernah dengar role transition tak?
Tak benar.
Okay, so role transition in, apa role transition in interpersonal? Contoh ada patient yang dia lama hidup bujang. Tiba-tiba kahwin, bila kahwin dia stress. Sebab bila kahwin ni, dia rasa, rupanya dia kena meet up expectation spouse dia. Rupanya dia kena bangun awal pagi lah. Lepas tu rupanya dia tak boleh kentut kuat-kuat lah. Lepas tu rupanya dia kena wife dia pula jenis tak suka guna berus gigi macam ni, dia nak berus gigi elektrik lah benda. Maksudnya before this dia tak pernah ada issues, tapi bila dia transition into new role as a person, now dia become wife, now dia become husband, now dia become father ke, dia start jadi konflik, dia jadi distress, dia jadi issues lah, dia ada psychological problem. Then that's also another indication. So patient have that problem. They may manifest as depression, they may manifest as anxiety. And tapi bila patient kita diagnose with depression, kita go through deeper, then kita faham, rupanya dia depressed ni sebab dia ada problem in adapting to this new role. So therefore, kita refer dia for interpersonal psychotherapy untuk dia faham. Ataupun sometimes ada isu, contoh relationship dia, dia kahwin dengan suami orang and then dia dapat anak tiri contohnya, and then dia tak boleh nak adapt dengan role of becoming instant mother contohnya. And so this pun another example where kita boleh offer interpersonal psychotherapy. So tadi you kata one is conflicts between family members, second communication, third is role transition. So all of these are indication for interpersonal psychotherapy. Another one adalah self-esteem issues in relationship. Okay, so that's also, dan sometimes kita boleh offer interpersonal. Sometimes ada orang dia rasa tak fit in dalam family. Dia rasa dia macam tak belong to the relationship. Dia rasa dia tak dihargai. So interpersonal, and tapi that means you can also offer interpersonal psychotherapy for the patient. Okay, so basically in essence, whatever diagnosis yang patient tu ada, tapi bila you explore the stressor, you tengok the stressor dia relates to social issues, specifically interpersonal, then that means dalam jawapan or dalam discussion you can offer interpersonal psychotherapy. Okay, interpersonal psychotherapy ni cara dia buat basically adalah mengajar cara nak survive in relationship lah. Okay, jadi kalau contoh orang tu dia ada issue communication, dalam terapi tu dia ajarlah, dia buat role play, dia ajar konsep, dia practice, Contohnya, pernah dengar assertive therapy? Pernah dengar assertiveness? Pernah dengar tak?
Pernah.
Nah,
Apa assertiveness? You all kena faham nak jadi HO. Banyak HO yang depressed dan sebab isu assertive. What's assertive? Salimah, what's assertive? ASSIDI.
You cannot say no.
Okay. Assertive that means you can say no. Okay, so non-assertive means you cannot say no lah. Okay, apa problem dia? What's the problem for somebody who is non-assertive? What's the problem?
All the work will be piled up for him, and then leads to stress.
Okay. So, what
they
kind of
cannot stand by themselves.
disorder that they tend to get, people who are non-assertive? Disorder that they can possibly have. I mean, resulting from being non-assertive. So they can get anxiety, they're anxious around certain people, they can get social anxiety disorder, they can get depression kan? Stress sebab aku je kena, orang lain tak pernah kena aku je, the group aku je kena present, bila discussion aku je kena contribute kan? Dan dia jenis tak reti. Siapa yang personality, what kind of personality yang tend to be non-assertive?
Cluster C aja.
Cluster C kan, avoidant, dependent, anxious. Okay, good. Right. So if you identify this in your patient, then you can offer interpersonal psychotherapy. Contohnya, you ada patient yang depressed, dia tanya apa stressor dia. Stressornya saya kena bully kat tempat kerja. Kenapa kena bully? Tak tahulah doktor, semua orang duk letak kerja dekat saya. Orang lain patutnya orang lain punya kerja, tapi saya yang kena buat. Puan tak kata tak ke? Saya ni bukan jenis macam tu doktor, saya ni jenis ikut je, kalau tak nanti kan orang kata apa kat saya. So you boleh identify, you can identify already that this patient pattern of behavior or characteristic is good dengan interpersonal, mana patient will benefit from interpersonal. Okay, faham eh? Okay, carry on.
So that's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Mara. Next. Saya tak on camera ni sebab saya tengah melipat kain. Kan awak ingat saya tak. Apa? Next apa?
Saya betul, sekejap
Afif awak kat rumah ke?
Betul. Ada juga bilik
Sofa belakang
katil tu.
Sampul. Habis semua orang nampak katil awak.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. So now I will be talking about psychoanalysis and psychodynamic psychotherapy. Next slide. Okay. So about psychoanalysis. So this is picture of Sigmund Freud, which is macam father of psychoanalysis. So about psychoanalysis, it actually something that focus on the idea that that everybody has unconscious part of the mind. And everything, if the unconscious is endangered, and then the people will develop physical symptoms. Next. Okay, so this is a book that was written by Sigmund Freud, which studies on hysteria, which is what developed into psychoanalysis. so about the story of Anna O, which is her real name is Bertha Pappenheim, and then Joseph Brewer is Sigmund Freud's mentor, and so Sigmund Freud. What happened was that these people, these two psychiatrists was macam handling this case of Anna O. So she was 21 years old, and then she had symptoms of macam paralysis, spasm dengan loss of ability to speak, and also hallucination. So macam orang cakap macam kind of schizophrenia, macam hysteria macam tu. And then when Brewer and Sigmund Freud, dia macam
Kalau hari ni apa diagnosis dia?
schizophrenia.
If she presents today,
Schizophrenia.
no. Mana ada schizophrenia, ada blindness, paralysis. Apa?
Conversion disorder.
Conversion disorder.
Okay, so what happened was that when she was hypnotized, dia macam Anna O ni dia macam kembali kepada her previous self, and from when they ask questions when she was hypnotized, so they explored her macam subconscious. So the symptoms of the previous symptoms became less, and she macam the symptoms was no longer there. So from that, this Sigmund Freud and Joseph Brewer ni macam they find out that if by exploring the subconscious, they can alleviate the symptoms of yang require psychiatry punya problem. Next. Okay, so what psychoanalysis is? It is a branch of psychology that focuses on treating the mental disorders by recognizing the relationship between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. So for the goal, it helps the patient to develop insight into unconscious conflict, and then to develop more adult pattern of interacting and behaving. Okay, next slide. So this is a picture of the unconscious mind, which was illustrated by Sigmund Freud. So there's the conscious, which is the tip of the iceberg, and then the subconscious, which is below the iceberg. And then for the conscious mind, there's all of the things on the right, and the unconscious, so the things on the right. And then next. Okay, so there is also presence of id, ego, and superego. Next. Okay, so for the id, it is the pleasure principle, ego is reality principle, and superego is morality principle. And then for id, it is divided into two, which is the eros, the life instinct, also the thanatos, which is the death instinct. For the ego, basically it is your conscious mind, your conscious, which controls the which controls when there is a fight between the id and the superego, and the superego is what follows the moral standards. Okay, next. So for the psychoanalysis, it is to bring to the surface the repressed memories and feelings. So it is for the goal, it is to gradually remove the amnesia rooted in early childhood. These are the words that are given in Kaplan. And then to able to relinquish former regressive patterns, to develop new, more adaptive ones, and to achieve some measures of self-understanding or insight. So for the approach and technique, this is based on the Freudian technique, which is the first one is free association. So during the therapy, the patient is allowed to say whatever the patients want to say. So from whatever the patient says, the therapist macam relate whatever she says dengan to say that it is what the mind is saying. And then dream analysis, and also the analysis of the slips of the tongue, Freudian slip. So what he says is whatever we say, macam when we think it is wrong, it is actually not wrong. It is actually the unconscious part of our mind saying that thing. Next. Okay, this is the stages of psychoanalysis. In Kaplan, he wrote there's 3 stages. So I think it is similar with the one before. Stage 1 is to establish the basic rules, and then to take some history, and then for the stage 2, it is to explore more on the subconscious, And then the stage 3 is to break the bond between the therapist and also the patient. Next. Okay, and then there is development of the psychoanalytic psychotherapy, which is developed from the psychoanalysis. And then there's expressive technique, also supportive technique. Expressive technique is insight oriented, while supportive technique is relationship oriented. So the technique is to uncover evocative, also interpretive. For the supportive technique it is suggestive, suppressive, or regressive. And next. Okay, so based on Kaplan, this is the difference between the psychoanalysis and psychoanalytic psychotherapy, which is exploratory and expressive and also supportive. Next, I think you can read this if you are interested. This is the table that I did based on the huge table, so I think you can just read this small table on the right. Next. Then the development of psychodynamic psychotherapy, which is developed after the psychoanalytic psychotherapy. Next. So it is developed by Freud's followers, which are there are a lot of his followers, but these are the ones that developed the psychodynamic psychotherapy, which is Carl Jung, Anna Freud, Melanie Klein, and also Alfred Adler. So it is basically a time-limited therapy compared to psychoanalysis. So it requires only 10 to 20 sessions. So it is named as brief psychodynamic psychotherapy. So it can be used in depression, which is one of the recommendations in CPG for MDD. Can be also be used for anxiety and also PTSD. Okay, this is what happens in the psychodynamic psychotherapy. So it resolves the intrapsychic, also unconscious conflict. It instills insight on the relationship between the conflict, childhood experiences, and symptoms. Right? It also identifies mental defenses adopted by a patient in order to avoid unpleasant conflict. It involves the dealing with the client-therapist relationship, and then it involves reflection, interpretation, and confrontation, and also to pay attention to the non-verbal communication. And then it also instills insight in critically important for us.
Kenapa saya tak nampak slide awak
Tak nampak.
Orang lain nampak
Nampak.
Sekejap. Tak nampak.
Nadia Farhana yang present, Doktor. Tengok Nadia Farhana present.
Nadia Farhana. Sekejap, saya kena ambil nampak. Okay. Alright. Tadi saya pin dekat Afif. Dah lah tengok muka dia je. Okay.
Next. Okay, these are the types of psychodynamic psychotherapy. So there's brief focal psychotherapy, time-limited psychotherapy, short-term dynamic psychotherapy, and so short-term anxiety-provoking psychotherapy. So if you read the Ainsah, there's part of psychodynamic psychotherapy. Basically, it doesn't tell any of this, but it gives macam scenario or something like that. So in that book, in Ainsah, it says that there is a case of female. And then what happens is that she had conflicts, macam she had symptoms of tak ingat apa symptomnya. Tapi what happens is that when actually what she currently has is actually because of her past macam childhood macam tu. So macam I think she has a problem with his husband, something like that. And then it turns out that actually his father is abusive, so macam his husband macam does not meet his expectation. So his husband does not meet her expectation. So her expectation is that she wants somebody who can listen to her. For example, and then when I explore further, the true story is that she has a very close relationship with her father. So she tells everything to her father, and then when her husband is not able to give her that, I mean the husband does not listen to her, then macam dia tak puas hati dengan husband dia. So actually what she wants is that somebody who can listen to her. Okay, next. Okay, this is what is the difference between psychodynamic and also psychoanalysis. So you can read this on your own if you're interested next. Yeah, I think that's all. Okay, and then just to add, what Dr. Nizam has said before, actually, psychoanalysis and also psychoanalytic psychotherapy is now not done. So now we only do psychodynamic psychotherapy, whereby we already set how many sessions the patient has to come and then what to explore on each session. I think that's all.
Okay. So nak faham psychodynamic psychotherapy ni, maknanya psychoanalysis tu is how it started. So don't get confused. So for today, maknanya kalau ini clinical exam semua, jangan kata you nak offer psychoanalytic psychotherapy. Nampak sangat you tak faham. That is actually the historical approach yang ada sekarang ni, psychodynamic psychotherapy. Cuma you kena faham patient macam mana yang sesuai, what kind of patient yang suitable for psychodynamic psychotherapy. Okay, if you look back dekat how it started, so NRO tu dia presented with conversion disorder. Okay, so bila dia present at that moment, dia punya symptoms dia adalah conversion. Okay, so conversion tu adalah dia punya psychological presentation dia. Dan cuma bila patient presented with psychiatric problem, antara benda yang kita nak faham adalah dia punya stressor, mana what leads to the development of the symptom, betul tak? Contohnya, bila sebab apa kita nak tahu what leads to the development of the symptoms adalah supaya kita boleh offer treatment lah. Contoh macam tadi kita sebut, orang tu ada marital conflict menyebabkan dia depressed, therefore kita offer lah marital therapy. Kan? It makes sense, betul tak? Sebab dia tackle the underlying problem. Contoh patient ada cellulitis because dia ada underlying diabetes mellitus, dan kita treat lah dia punya diabetes. And so sama juga in psychiatry. Kita aim in whoever patient that we see, we want to know apa masalah dia ni sampai jadi macam dia ni. Okay, so dalam kes NRO ni, they couldn't find it. Maksudnya dia tak jumpa dia ni tak ada masalah keluarga, dia ni tak ada masalah keuangan, dia ni tak ada masalah tu, tapi kenapa dia develop this very odd presentation of psychiatric problem. So daripada bila dia buat terapi, dia explore patient, dia jumpa patient ni bertahun. Okay? Daripada situ dia dapat rupanya apa yang patient alami hari ni boleh jadi datang daripada konflik yang tak settle in the past. Maknanya masalah dia sekarang, tapi isu dia rupanya 20 tahun dulu. Okay? So macam mana pula isu 20 tahun dulu boleh presented now? Dan barulah dia faham konsep of repression. Itu antara earlier understanding of defense mechanism. Maksudnya orang ataupun manusia ni dia boleh do something yang menyebabkan masalah dia tu dia buried underneath dia punya awareness. Contohnya orang tu in the case of NRO, later on dia find out that NRO ni pernah kena abuse. Okay? NRO ni pernah ada relationship problem menyebabkan dia kena abuse. Tapi kenapa problem tu datang sekarang? Sebab masa dia abuse tu, dia tak deal with it. Instead, dia repress the memory. Okay? So, kalau, and then bila dia repress, dia kumpul dekat dalam, memenuhi dia punya kolam hati dia tu, sampai end up at one stage, benda tu penuh, the soul cannot contain it anymore, and so eventually it comes up again as symptoms. Okay, so normally symptoms tu symptoms tu psychiatric manifestation lah, because it's psychological origin kan. Alright, so daripada situ apa yang dia buat adalah dia make NRO ni talk about it. Mana instead of repressing your memory, repressing your experience, repressing your thoughts and emotion, you bring it up again by apa? Macam mana kita nak make patient bring it up again? Apa? correct telinga dia, correct otak dia. Kita buat macam mana?
Explore by asking the patient to tell her more about herself.
By talking je sebenarnya. Sebab tu psikoterapi ni kita panggil talking therapy. Betul tak? Patient duduk, kalau zaman-zaman dulu kan dia letak gambar, letak couch, bercakap, betul tak? Sebab apa orang repress? Sebab dia tak boleh nak bercakap benda-benda tu. Contohlah, macam contoh, unfortunate things happen to you. You kena cabul contohnya. Takkan dia nak pergi duduk atas perhimpunan cerita kat semua orang pada satu hari. Tak, no one talks about it, betul tak? And more so, if you don't have anyone trusting you or anyone yang you trust. So, the best thing that you will do adalah, the logical things that you will do is you keep it to yourself, betul tak? Tapi in therapy ni, kita duduk dalam situation where you are free to talk about anything that you want. Tu yang ada slip of tongue tu. Slip of tongue tu maksudnya dia tak nak cakap. Tapi dia keluar. Dia keluar juga. Okay? Because kita nak fight against apa yang dia used to do. Dia used to repress, now we want to unpress it. Kita nak dia let it go. Alright, so bila dia keluarkan tu, then we can deal with it. Then patient can deal with it. Patient can start accepting it. And contoh, classic example adalah orang yang ada resentment ataupun orang yang ada dendam tak habis-habis dengan ayah dia sebab ayah dia cabul dia dan sebagainya. And then ayah dia meninggal. Okay? Dan ayah dia tak sempat minta maaf dekat dia. So memang dia akan macam sekat. Faham tak? Faham tak sekat? Dia macam tak lepas dekat dada tu. Macam dia marah tapi nak marah siapa? Tak ada. And so these are kind of patients yang selalunya akan ada psychodynamic issues. And they want forgiveness, but no one wants to hear them. No one wants to believe them. No one wants to listen to them. So we need to get them to express. Alright. So that's what essentially psychodynamic psychotherapy is. It's very unique form of therapy, tapi it's not suitable for everybody. Okay. Untuk syarat untuk offer sama jenis psikoterapi ni apa? Yang pertama adalah orang tu dia mesti ada, you must be able untuk somehow elicit that there is a past conflict, unresolved past conflict. Okay? And so contoh, kalau orang yang you nak offer CBT, you mesti able to identify orang ni macam ada pattern cara fikir yang maladaptif lah. Sikit-sikit dia kata, aku ni tak pandai lah. So dia ni sesuai CBT ni. Okay, so that's one maknanya that's an example for you to identify siapa yang sesuai siapa. Tapi kalau psychodynamic psychotherapy ni pula, kalau bila you talk to the patient ataupun you explore with the patient, you identify patient ni macam ada conflict. Macam keep on talking about mak saya suka bandingkan saya lah, ataupun dia ada trauma in the past that never been process. Contohnya masa kecil dia pernah abuse ke, and ataupun ada whatever conflicts in the past yang tak settle lagi. So unresolved past conflict, and bila patient sebut je tentang unresolved past conflict, that means you must think about the possibility of offering patient psychodynamic psychotherapy. Alright, now kalau in psychodynamic kalau in CBT, dia punya kita panggil apa, macam mana dia punya mechanism of development adalah cognitive errors. Maknanya with cognitive errors, patient akan develop this maladaptive pattern of thinking. Kalau in psychodynamic psychotherapy, apa pula dia punya pattern dia? Apa yang menyebabkan patient develop konflik tu? Faham tak soalan saya? Okay, alright. So in CBT, kita fahamkan patient develop depression because maladaptive pattern of thinking. Betul tak? Yang ni semua orang faham? Faham. Right. So in therapy, antara kerja kita adalah kita kena identify apa maladaptive pattern ni supaya kita boleh correct. Okay. So maladaptive pattern yang kita nak cari ni, nama dia adalah cognitive error. Betul? Saya suruh baca pasal cognitive error. Ada baca tak? Cognitive distortion. Apa contoh cognitive distortion?
catastrophizing, all or nothing.
Okay, good. So benda-benda tu semua adalah benda yang kita nak identify dan terapi so that kita boleh correct. Sebab ini punca dia. Ini mechanism how you become depressed. Kalau in psychodynamic therapy kita identify apa? Selain tadi, one is past conflict, second apa? Macam mana patient develop problem yang menyebabkan dia masukkan masalah dia daripada conscious to subconscious, unconscious. Okay, repression tu satu contoh saja. So repression ni apa sebenarnya? Oh, repression tu apa? Dia belajar year 1 tu. Belajar year 1 tu apa?
Defense mechanism.
Defense mechanism.
Apa beza defense mechanism and coping mechanism? Apa pula beza dia?
Defense mechanism is unconscious tadi.
Pandai. So defense is unconscious. You tak plan to do it. You tak plan to use it. Coping is conscious. Contohnya, you stress lah. Weekend pun, di public holiday pun kena buat kelas. Jom lah pergi minum-minum. So pergi minum-minum tu is planned coping. So that is coping mechanism. You consciously plan what to do when you are in stressful situation. Now, defense mechanism is unconscious. It happens spontaneously. And contoh defense mechanism adalah satu repression ni selalu dengar kan. Another one is denial. Kan patient, doktor bagi tahu dia ada cancer. Lepas tu pun dia deny, manalah doktor ni salah ni, doktor ni tak betul ni, doktor ni. So dia deny kan. Alright. So denial tu conscious ke unconscious?
Unconscious.
Unconscious lah. Patient tak plan, aku nak masuk bilik doktor ni. Okay, kalau doktor cakap apa-apa, aku nak deny lah. Yang sikit, tak ada. Dia deny tu almost spontaneously. Sama juga macam acting out. Acting out ni dia melawan kan, dia nampak kan. Orang tak plan, dia just spontaneously, bila kena pressure tu, dia just korang buat lah, aku nak quit lah group ni, aku tak nak buat lah. So that is acting out kan. So that is very impulsive, very, very immature defense mechanism. Now, inilah yang kita kena identify in psychodynamic psychotherapy. Sebab apa? Sebab kalau patient continue to display this, kalau patient continue to buat macam ni, dia akan going back to the same problem. Which is, ada problem, dia akan masukkan dalam defense. Ada problem, dia akan masukkan. So defense mechanism ni fungsi dia apa? What is the role, what is the function of defense mechanism?
Protect ego.
Macam mana?
Macam to protect ego, protect the consciousness.
Nak protect ego lah. Basically you nak maintain your integrity. You tak nak upset, you tak nak stress, you tak nak distress. Contohnya, bila doktor kata you ada cancer, you terus deny. Bila you deny, that's basically means you believe that doctor is incorrect, you are correct. So you akan rasa macam taklah sedih sangat, tu tak? Contohnya, member you kata, aku dengar fail lah. Contoh. Lepas tu kata, kau ni sumpah nak ada. Bohong ada. So, kita tak ada rasa macam tak. But back in our mind, kita kata macam, oh, my friend ni maybe bluffing. So, I might not be fail. Okay, so temporarily, it's good. Okay, temporarily, it's good. Kenapa? Dia maintain kita punya, dia buat kita tak too stressed up. Tapi the problem is, kalau kita continue doing so, dia akan menyebabkan another problem. Contohnya kalau patient yang cancer, dia continue to be denied. Patient yang ada bipolar, dia continue to deny dia ada bipolar. Patient yang ada anak autism, dia continue to deny anak dia ada autism. So dia akan end up jadi apa? Dia akan end up jadi